What's up, guys? It's about 7:30 here, Friday, August 6th. Took the day off today because we have some rain coming in and really want to get the food plots going, so that's what today's video is going to be on, kind of our food plot strategy for 2021 this year. Got things loaded up on the trailer. As you can see here, this is my homemade little, disc slash scratcher, or whatever you want to call it. Got the lag bolts in here, and then just basically a framed square that I'm going to tow with the ATV, cinch it on. Saw someone had a YouTube video on this a year or two ago and just kind of made my own makeshift. There's a 4x4 sandwiched in between these 2x4s to give it a little weight, and then of course you could always add some weight if you wanted, but typically with these being a little sharp, they get into the ground pretty well. You can see they are bent a little, so maybe I should have gone a little shorter, a little wider. But we'll kind of give that another try. It worked pretty well last year, as long as everything is dead and you have bare soil. On top of that, some blind chairs. Got these muddy swivel chairs off of camofire.com, a pretty dang good deal. I think they're going to be great. I mean, they're comfy, they're height adjustable, and they swivel silently, which is really nice, especially if you're going to be out in a ground blind. You want to turn, look through all the windows. I know most of us sometimes get a sore neck from all that. But anyways, we're gonna do most of that first. I'm gonna go into a little bit more strategy later, and then we're gonna fill this good old bin up with seed, and we're gonna be able to use this and our spreader bag, just our earthway spreader, which, good thing I just reminded myself, to get the seed down on about 4 to 4.5 acres we're gonna be doing today, all of our food plots. Got the seed right here, gonna go over that in a sec, and then we got all our impact. When we finish up with the day, we are going to spray. This is 12 jugs, which really is only good for 3 or so acres. So we might be a little bit light on the total use for impact, but I thought that would give us a good start. I got a little bit of lime down, not much, but maybe a ton or so in the beginning of the year, in the winter, early spring. There was actually a little snow, so it was pretty early, and see how that works. Now, I'm not gonna be doing a test plot to show you guys, how much the impact worked versus didn't work, but I'll tell you, being that this is going to be a first year plot, and even though the farmer last year did plant some soybeans, I know he hadn't limed in a while, so if it does come in really well, I'm definitely going to be a strong believer in impact. If it doesn't, then I'm going to be a little skeptical, but we'll go over the results and touch on it. My soil test last year was a 5.7, I believe, 5.7 or 5.9, I think it was 5.7, and added a little bit of lime and did add the recommended amount of fertilizer. So we should be doing okay. The soybeans tended to grow pretty well last year, so they were quite high. So we'll touch on that. We'll head out there, and we will kind of go over a little bit on what we're thinking food-wise, and how we might change things in the years to come if need be. All right, so I just used this tub to mix the seed. You can only really do about 150 pounds at a time, which I wasn't thinking of at the start. So I kind of split up the bags, did half at first, mixed it all in, and then later on I did another half. That way I could move the bin around on the trailer and get the seed, since with this blend you do put quite a bit of seed down on the ground. It takes a little while. All right, so we just got out here. Bugs are pretty bad. A little disheartening, unfortunately. A lot of the areas are pretty well killed. They're good to go. We can scratch and seed. As we get a little closer though to the main kind of bigger plot here in the center, this is where the weeds were taller. The buckwheat, was intermittent. Either way, we decided to kill it all, but you can start to see, minus this big one, a lot of these just 5-6 inch plants. And then in the very middle, it's actually quite a bit worse, where these weeds are just coming back with a vengeance, even though we did spray twice. Obviously, like I told you guys, though, there wasn't much time. We really only had a month, so we only waited a couple weeks in between spraying, and on top of that, we mowed close to the second spraying, so that actually might have prevented a lot of the glyphosate from soaking into the leaves. Usually I hear sometimes till it dries and really can get soaked in. Other times, a couple of days to soak in. However, if you cut the leaves off right away, and that's where the herbicide was going in from, could be part of the problem. So that is a little bit of a bummer. I have no glyphosate. I got to run to the store, get glyphosate, come back, load the sprayer on here, which I wasn't planning on doing until the impact, spray this, either potentially let it dry and seed the rest of the areas, or risk seeding it all right away, but based on my last video, if you saw that, we do not want really glyphosate contact with our seed. I could also spend some time scratching up the ground like I was going to anyway, let that glyphosate soak in. I'm not gonna mow. These weeds are already pretty small, but they are leafing out. So I think the glyphosate will get good contact and kill them as they're dying, hopefully, since really some areas are not too bad, and there's just, you know, in that big plot, some decent coverages in other areas. But I think the seeds should be able to come through. And if I run out of time today, well then, you know, in a couple days, I'll come back and I'll spray the impact then, because I also don't want a bunch of glyphosate in the sprayer when I go to do that. I'm gonna have to rinse it out, and all this is just gonna take time doing it by myself. So we're gonna drop this trailer, go to Tractor Supply, and just get to work. No sense in wasting time. So we'll be back out. All right, so we just finished spraying. Pretty much covered the 4.5 acres. Got done with that, tank's empty. The plan is to let most of this dry for an hour or two. Now, a lot of this, as you can see, even though it's not perfect, it is, for the most part, bare dirt with some of the younger weeds coming back. So I think we can still get great soil contact, seed to soil contact, especially with the brassicas, but even with the oats, peas, and beans that we're going to do on the other side. To reiterate, we're going to be doing a half and half. And what I mean is not splitting it half and doing one, but actually cutting this trail in half, doing the oats, peas, and beans on one side, which we will also add the winter rye around Labor Day or in beginning to middle of September, and then the brassicas on the far side. Now what the plan is going to be, besides letting this glyphosate dry, we are going to essentially use that, I call it a scratcher, use that scratcher to basically scratch up where the brassicas are going to go, and then we'll seed everything. So we're just going to scratch the half where the brassicas are going to go. We're going to seed all of the seed, both sides, but then we're going to come back and we're going to scratch up the oats, peas, and beans side, which would actually be this side. And the reason for that is those bigger seeds actually do better if they're buried a little bit deeper. They can take longer to germinate, maybe need a little more moisture, but regardless, they can go a little deeper. So I'm going to run it after I seed the other side, and then I'm going to come back and cultipack it all. The brassica seeds, being so small, should be easy to get seed to soil contact and don't need to be buried deep at all. In fact, if they're buried too deep, they're probably not going to grow too well. So I do think with the amount of sunlight that it's going to be getting, with the seed to soil contact, and hopefully, you know, within a week of these younger weeds dying, that the plot is still going to do hopefully very well. I am going to probably wait. There's just a little bit of a wet area or two to spray the impact. Hopefully those puddles don't hold glyphosate, or we're just going to have, you know, a few bare spots, which is fine. I don't have to be a perfectionist on this project, especially doing it all myself. But what I do want to make sure is that we get these seeds in the dirt, they get rain, and then hopefully maybe right before they start germinating, maybe just in 2 days or Sunday, I will come back and spray that impact so it can correct a little bit of the lime, and I can bring that to you. Also, if you didn't see in the last video, I might have mentioned the Field Days podcast with Jason Say, and oftentimes some people from Whitetail Institute, they talk about this impact and correcting soil pH. And the reason I wanted to try this one first before, honestly, a lot of the other more known ones, I think Impact's brand new, but you know, your Deer Grow and your Plot Doctor and Antler Grow or whatever, all these other ones, is that they brought in some PhD scientists, and mind you, I'm aware they do work often with Whitetail Institute, so I completely get that. But they talk a lot about that science and how impact is actually something that has one of the carbonates or whatever, one of the 4 things that actually can help correct soil pH. Even if it's only for 30, 60, whatever days, it's actually making a difference. It's not just adding a couple nutrients like calcium or whatever and expecting everything to do well. It's doing what I want it to do. So we'll take it for what it's worth. We'll give it a try. In the meantime, I'm gonna hop over here. I'm gonna try and cut some shooting lanes for this blind, let the ATV cool down a little bit, maybe put the chairs in and stuff like that. And then we'll start scratching, and eventually today I get to seeding. So we just finished scratching up just about the half that the brassica side is gonna go on. I wanted to show you real quick. This half right here, you can kind of see the scratch marks that we dragged over. This half wasn't done. Just really showing this for comparison's sake. You know, it does do something, gets mixes up a little bit of soil for me too. Some areas probably weren't, you know, super level, so over time it does kind of help smooth things out, especially if you're not going to be using a tiller. But we're going to go ahead, give the four-wheeler a break, working on some shooting lanes over here. It's kind of neat, but a little more work than I thought. So we got the ghillie blind back there, gonna make a lane, you know, through here on the other side of the peninsula and on the other side as well. So at least we have a few. And then gonna go ahead and again plant the brassicas in this. And then I'm gonna plant all the oats, peas, and beans, and then I'm gonna come back on the oats, peas, and beans side and drag that as well. Try and get those seeds in just a little bit deeper, cultipack everything when it's done, and that way also the turkeys and other animals may not eat quite as many if they're buried. So we'll go ahead, give that a go. The four-wheeler's probably gonna need a break so it doesn't overheat every now and then, especially before we cultipack. And then hopefully we can have most of this stuff done today. Just come back, spray the impact on Sunday. But I'll try and show a finished product once we wrap this up in a few hours, I hope. Okay, so we finished the seeding. We scratched up the oats, peas, and beans after the fact, just that side. And I'm gonna go drop the trailer off, get the cultipacker. Everything's looking pretty dang good. The middle plot's a little weedier, hoping those smaller weeds that didn't quite die the last spraying will die. You can see a lot of the seeds from scratching. If you can see that bean there, you know, it does help to scuff it up as long as they're not getting too deep. A lot of these are still sitting on the surface though, you know, pretty heavily, so I think it's still going to be smart to cultipack and get them pushed in as much as possible. And again, alleviate hopefully all the turkeys we have running around here. Just got a first picture of babies a day or two ago, early August. So pretty exciting. But okay, we're gonna get the cultipacker. That's pretty much it for this video. I hope to, at the very least, I'm gonna be back, of course, in a couple days to spray the impact, but hope to have a little bit more of an update on the growth. You know, in a couple weeks, I think would be pretty reasonable. So stay tuned. If you like this stuff, please think about subscribing, give us a thumbs up, and we'll see you next time.